2019 is going to be a big year for movies, one of the biggest in the history of cinema. And the big movie coming out at the end of the year is Star Wars Episode 9. I want to talk about what's been going on in Star Wars. I haven't done a Star Wars video in a while because I'm going to get into why I haven't done a Star Wars video in a while, but it's part of the topic here. I rewatched The Last Jedi again recently because I was just morbidly curious to see. It's been 15 or so months since the movie's been out, and I was just morbidly curious to see how I would feel about it. Have I changed my mind about it? I mean, I've seen the movie already several times before, and every time I watch it, I find new things to dislike. A couple new things to like, of course. There's a few things here and there to like, but really, the last time I watched the movie, I realized more and more how just unthought out the movie was and how many problems it has. Like, it hit me when I was watching the movie. Like, at the end of the film, they all go to Crate. Kylo Ren knows that the last spark of the resistance, the rebellion, is on Crate. And why didn't they just take all their ships and surround the entire planet? The Millennium Falcon gets off the planet and light speeds out. But they could have stopped him before he got off. And they didn't. And that's dumb. Like, there's things like that in the movie that are just dumb. Like, why didn't they circle around to behind where the cave was at? They have ships. They had TIE fighters. They had more ships up on the bigger craft in space. It didn't make any sense. So, that's a small nitpick, okay? Obviously, the movie has bigger issues. What I wanted to get to here is the irreparable damage that Last Jedi has done to Star Wars. And actually, let me take that back. It might not be irreparable. And irreparable means that it can't be repaired. Because Star Wars Episode 9... I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's possible that it could be such a good movie that it does bring everybody back and everybody becomes a Star Wars fan again who checked off at Last Jedi. But it's going to take a lot because either way, J.J. Abrams is screwed. The people who like Last Jedi, if he changes too much stuff and kind of goes back to Force Awakens, they might not like the movie. And the ones who don't like Last Jedi, they might like it, but it might be too little too late for them to even care. And the thing about Last Jedi is, again, a lot of my friends love that movie. I can't stand it. I've done so many videos on this channel years ago, well, 15 months ago, and throughout the early parts of 2018, I've talked about Last Jedi a lot. And, the one thing that I want to talk about now, the reason why I'm even doing this video, is that we are right now about 9 months away from Episode 9, and there's no buzz at all. Nobody's talking about Episode 9. Obviously, Avengers Endgame is getting much more praise, and on the lower end, we have Shazam, and we have Godzilla coming out. There's bigger movies coming out this year that are being focused on right now. Not bigger than Star Wars, what I'm trying to say, but just, big movies coming out. Also, we have Quentin Tarantino's newest movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, coming out in July, which should be a good one, I hope. But there's just no buzz. And I look at what Last Jedi has done to Star Wars. Besides just splitting up the fandom, there are YouTube channels that I used to watch. Some Star Wars YouTubers are actually friends of mine. And a lot of them have moved on. Either they've switched over to doing, multiple channels on different topics, or some have just quit Star Wars altogether, or some are still talking about Star Wars, but they're not getting the views they were getting prior to Last Jedi. Now, obviously YouTube is cyclical. YouTube goes up, YouTube goes down, and we can't really judge the popularity of a franchise only on YouTube, but I feel like a big sector of the hardcore Star Wars fans are on YouTube, and I feel like the fact that views have gone astronomically down with pretty much across the board in all these channels that I used to watch, some big, some small, tells me that a big chunk of the fandom, and this is unarguable. If you want to argue this, you're lying to yourself. I don't care how much you love Last Jedi or the direction Rian Johnson took in the movie. Star Wars Last Jedi is hated by a lot of people, and it's worse than that. It's hated to where people stopped caring. People have checked out of Star Wars. There was a time when there were speculation Star Wars videos coming out every single week, and they would all get killer views, and we'd all have great discussions. There was a time going into Force Awakens and Last Jedi where there was excitement. What's JJ going to do? What's Ryan going to do? When are we going to see this character, that character? Who is this person's, what's their lineage? Where did Snoke come from? All these things that people just don't care about anymore. I haven't seen channels really blow up at all from Star Wars in 15 months. There's been no really big new names that I've noticed. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't watch that many videos on YouTube. I really don't. but I feel like it's really declined, and not just on YouTube, amongst other friend circles I'm in, amongst other groups that I'm in, people I talk to, friends of friends. No one's talking about this movie. No one's is hyped like they were for Last Jedi. We were extremely hyped going into that 2017 celebration in Orlando that I was at. We were all super freaking hyped, super freaking happy. And now, here we are, 9 months away, and there's nothing. Now, obviously, when the trailer comes out next month at Celebration, the first Star Wars Episode 9 teaser, obviously that's going to be, a big deal. Like, obviously, that's going to get a lot of hype. It's going to, bring some people back, some excitement, some actual visuals from the film. I think we'll get some excitement back, but I do wonder if some Star Wars fans are just not coming back, or at least not coming back till December. I do think that most Star Wars fans are going to go see Episode 9 because it's Star Wars, it's the last Skywalker movie. They're going to go see it. I'm not saying the movie won't make money, but do people care? And I'm not sensing that right now. Like, every Star Wars community that was really hot and really, into this franchise doesn't even care. I mean, I had friends who were reading all the books, and they were into all the comics, and I remember just having these cool discussions about, oh man, the Leia comic did this, and Aftermath, and all this neat stuff that we were all getting hyped for, the post-Jedi, pre-Force Awakens era, and what happened, and we're trying to answer these questions. And after what happened in Last Jedi, it's like nobody really even cares anymore. Like, nobody gives a shit anymore. So are they going to end this saga off on a bad note? Are they going to end this saga off on a note to where they say, you know what? Yeah, it's over. Like, it's done. Too bad. Obviously, we'll get some cool special effects. We're probably going to get some cool fights. There is stuff to look forward to. Kylo Ren is always awesome, in my opinion. There's some Carrie Fisher footage they're going to use in Episode 9. But I'm not sensing any buzz. Like, I'm not sensing any excitement for this film or for this whole franchise. Last Jedi has done tremendous damage. And if you don't believe me, look at Solo's numbers. I mean, people wanted to blame Solo for various reasons. There are a lot of reasons, The stupidest reason to me is the whole franchise fatigue thing. Like, oh, you're putting out too many Star Wars movies. There's 3 MCU movies, and they never get crapped on like Solo. And I liked Solo. I don't love it, but I thought it was okay. Solo suffered because people checked out of Star Wars with Last Jedi, because people in their heads, and sometimes it's very subconscious. Remember, not everybody is vocal. Not every person is going to leave a comment on Rotten Tomatoes or make a YouTube video or make a blog. Some people just think to themselves, or they just realize by themselves in their own friend circles, like, dude, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. Last Jedi made me not care because watching that film, it felt... And there's some very smart people who agree with me on this one, too. And some who don't agree. But it's okay. That's why we're having a discussion. Last Jedi felt like Disney doesn't give a damn about Star Wars fans. That they don't care. That the movie was very, very... it just had this really weird feeling of disdain and, dislike for Star Wars fans and what made this franchise so great. There are 8 Rocky movies and 8 Star Wars movies, and there's more good Rocky movies than there are Star Wars movies. So, I'm not saying Episode 9's going to flop, because it's not. Star Wars can never make a movie that isn't profitable, because it's Star Wars. There's too much equity in the brand. But I wonder what has to be done in this movie to save this franchise, if it even has. I wonder if people are just... and there's other things too. It's not just Last Jedi. It's also Force Awakens and the bad stuff that movie did. But it had a lot more promise than Last Jedi. And then the comics and the other films are just not getting the love that they used to get. Star Wars was like an event at one time, even during the prequel era. The new video games were great. Well, some of them were. The comics were still pretty interesting. Nowadays, and I haven't opened up a Star Wars comic in maybe a year, and I used to read them. I really did. There's just nobody cares. Like, it's just become this thing where it's just like, okay, it's another Star Wars movie. And that's not what I wanted this sequel trilogy to be. I want it to be better, or at least as good as the original trilogy, which some might say is impossible, but if you make a good movie, make a good movie. And I wanted these movies to be as good, and they're just not as good. Even Force Awakens, which I loved when it first came out, it's not as good as the old movies. And Last Jedi hurt Force Awakens. Can Episode 9 save it? I don't know, but I'm not sensing any buzz. And if you look at the internet landscape, I mean, there's huge YouTube channels, there's huge websites. Just their traffic is just not what it used to be. The discussions aren't there. Last Jedi split the fandom and drove people away from this franchise. There were more Star Wars fans that were hardcore prior to that movie coming out than after. There's numbers to prove it. And that's bad. That is not good. What can they do to please those people? I have no idea. I literally don't know. Even if they fired Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know if that's the answer. I say, give it time. That's the only thing I can think of. After episode 9, don't make a new Star Wars movie for a little while. Maybe 3-4 years. Give it time and then come back. Let the people miss you. Give them a chance to miss you. Or at least wait a couple years. I mean, right now there's no Star Wars movies that are planned for 2020. Even though there probably will be something announced at some point this year. Obi-Wan or whatever they're going to do. Who knows what they're going to do. I don't think they even do Obi-Wan anymore. But it's amazing because I don't want to feel like I don't like I want to be a Star Wars fan again. I want to get back into it. I love that universe. I love what George Lucas created in the 80s and the 70s and what he has added to and what other creative minds have added to it. Dave Filoni. I love Star Wars. But man, like, I just can't get back into it anymore. Even the stuff that has nothing to do with the sequel trilogy, I just can't get back into it. I guess I'll watch Clone Wars, I guess I can do that, but man, like, this movie did a lot of damage. I don't think Rian Johnson understood the Star Wars fan base. Even though he is a Star Wars fan, I don't think he really got that big weight on his shoulders. I don't think he figured out what he had to do to please them or to at least not drive them away. It's a very condescending film. Very condescending. So, what do you think? What can get you hyped for episode 9? Love to read your comments. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.